We're having a discussion about healthy drinks because he's drinking juice. Well, with that being said, welcome to today's episode. Today we are going to be discussing open source software in IT in terms of different software that you can use for free, their opportunities and risks. We're going to cover, let's say, multiple different angles towards the idea of using open source software in IT, like open source software for local cloud infrastructure, security, networking, licensing, whatever pops to mind, and innovation and maintenance, and whatever the role of open source is in today's IT and digital transformation, if we want to troll each other, whatnot. That's the intro. Welcome to That IT Show podcast, and let's roll the intro. Okay, Mr. Open Source who fixes 4 problems at the same time while drinking and also recording a podcast. What's up?
Chewing bubblegum.
Chewing bubblegum, yes. Well done, you.
And I'm not out of gum today, so I'm a little bit slow.
Out of something else, not gum.
No, let's start with immediately straight to the head. Do you know what the biggest open source project is based on the number of developers?
Kernel?
Yes.
Okay.
Something like 15,000 people are contributing to the kernel or have contributed to the kernel. So it's an amazing number.
Okay.
At the same time, when people are talking about open source projects, they fail to realize that almost everything that exists right now is running partly or entirely on open source.
Okay.
I know entire network infrastructure centers or data centers that are completely running on open source, and the only thing that they are paying for usually are log analyzers and the hardware itself.
Okay.
So open source is amazing. On the other hand, what I wanted to start with is, do you think that open source is better than the closed source commercial projects?
As years rolled by, I became less of a fanboy of anything. For me, it's all about the use case. I don't care what the nature of the license and the payment structure for a software is. If I have a specific need that needs to be fulfilled in some kind of corporate environment, I am equal opportunity type of dude. I'm going to check what open source has to offer, what paid software has to offer, and select what seems to be the best. Or I'm going to use, of course, let's say past experiences to gauge that without thinking about it too much.
Okay, let me throw a few things at you, then we'll talk about those.
Okay.
First, let's try to carve out different types of open source projects or different areas that open source projects are trying to work in.
Okay.
So first, there are open source projects that make absolutely to almost no sense at all. So the nth version of the media player or MP3 player or music player or photo display software or whatever. And I like those because sometimes you can see entirely new ideas being created as a prototype, basically, on an example like MP3 player. But those open source projects are not those that are of interest to us.
Okay.
Then there are open source projects that are infrastructure based. So they're on the opposite, like Linux kernel, things like Hadoop, things like Ceph, things like ZFS, things like Apache, MySQL, Kubernetes, KVM, so
NFS, SMB.
Things that are a fundamental part of the operating system and or clustering, and that are completely unavoidable if you want to work in this field.
Okay.
Because to be completely honest, there is no Microsoft equivalent to Kubernetes.
Okay.
We can
unless you want to run Kubernetes on Windows. But still, it's
Okay, but it's not something that you want to do unless you are just experimenting.
I have a graduate thesis that says otherwise, but you're correct.
Yes, but you have a graduate thesis, but there is also a couple of thousand people who are trying to run Kubernetes, and none of them is running it on Windows.
A couple of thousand.
Uh,
You mean many thousands of thousands?
Yes, but the thing is that the main reason why this isn't a thing is because the Windows server is expensive. And if you need to spin up a cluster of Kubernetes or whatever cluster of something, you need to have a reason why you're paying for the core licenses for the operating system. And this is where the Linux shines. It's not that the Linux is always the better tool. Usually, when it comes to scale, Linux is usually the least expensive tool, and then people just build on that. So it's for me, it's normal that everything that requires clustering and I don't know, high performance computing or high availability computing basically runs on Linux, because you can spin however many nodes you need for practically just the price of the hardware, and then you need to deal with the result.
I mostly agree with you unless we're talking about a couple of situations where Microsoft clustering shines, not the built-in failover clustering, application clustering, just so that we are clear. Obviously, you know the answer,
Yes.
what I'm about to say. So there are at least two applications that do not have an equivalent in open source world, Microsoft Exchange and Microsoft SQL. You can harp all you want about MySQL, NoSQL, Postgres, and whatever. It's still not as good as Microsoft SQL, especially in the realms of clustering, and we can discuss that later. But Exchange, I don't think we need to have that discussion. Postfix is nowhere near it. Zimbra is nowhere near that one as well. There's a reason why Exchange / Office 365 market penetration is, million%. So unless we're talking about that, generally speaking, you're okay. For example, if you want high availability solution, I still prefer Microsoft DFS to anything else on open source, but that's where I would stop.
It depends where and what are you trying to achieve. If you want something that's going to distribute it, DFS is one way of working on it. Going with Ceph or something similar.
No, Ceph is an ideal choice for any environments,
Yes.
especially for environments that require multiple types of storage at the same time.
Yes, but if you want to file storage, DFS is probably the way to go.
Yeah, especially for Microsoft shops, because DFS is
But
picture
Microsoft,
perfect.
but Microsoft is, and this is a thing that actually, I will say it tickles my mind when I need to think about it. Microsoft has a specific niche when it comes to
How times have changed, huh?
No. They have a specific niche where people are pretty consistent in developing, deploying, and running the systems that are Microsoft SQL, IIS, and other Microsoft services. And also, there are basically right now only two services that are going to be that are in the running for the best email service. One is Gmail, and other is Office 360 or Microsoft Exchange or Microsoft whatever.
C365, whatever the product name is.
Well, whatever the name is right now.
Or Exchange Online, yeah.
So,
Okay.
so I think that when it comes to specific services like mail, I wouldn't install anything locally. So I don't consider the postfix is not the open source alternative to Gmail or something like
It
that.
actually has most of the features, nowadays at least, that are supported by Exchange. Zimbra is perhaps even better in that regard, but I would rather shoot myself in the foot than use that as a replacement.
I don't think that it is the matter of shooting yourself in the foot. I think that the idea is that email itself has become so complicated that
Email has always been complicated.
Yes, but in the last few years, with all the different add-on or tacked-on solutions for things like security, like spam protection, and so on, I think that there is something at scale that makes sense. The reason why Gmail is so good at fighting spam and why Microsoft is good at fighting spam is because they are able to notice the patterns of the spam appearing on the network, and they're able to basically kill the spam in its roots. So the spam has stopped being a problem.
No, it's not.
But
No, for the large
for
part,
the large
for a
part
lot
of
of
the
people, yes, but it's still happening in volumes.
no. You can just open the spam folder in any of your applications. You're going to see hundreds or thousands of messages there.
There
But
are also quite a few false positives, at least in my experience, but it definitely is getting much better.
okay, I choose who I'm mailing with, so I usually don't get false positives. Or, to be completely honest, I'm not mailing with people. So
Yeah, he is famously he is called the email ignorer.
no. I think that emails are just suggestions,
Yeah,
not
yeah.
not the call to actions.
Unless somebody calls you, that's not call to action. Huh?
A physical call is something that I actually wholeheartedly support. And if you call me, this means that you spent your time talking to me. Then I
You want-
respect your time.
No, you want to feel appreciated. That's it.
No, I respect your investment.
In respect, no, you don't.
Anyways,
just troll.
this is one thing. And now, when we come to solutions at large that are open source, I think that in the most part, open source solutions exist for more and more different things. And I think that what is happening is that you can, if you just make a little bit of effort, you can find a lot of open source solutions. And I need to make one thing perfectly clear. It's not just open source solutions under Linux. Because people sometimes say, okay, open source is just the Linux thing. No, it isn't. There is a ton of different utilities that are open source for Windows that are amazing. And when people are talking about open source projects, some projects are highly visible. Some projects are completely hidden or opaque to a regular user.
VLC, GIMP, Blender, 7-zip, LibreOffice, Inkscape, OpenOffice,
FFmpeg.
Audacity, KeePass, millions.
FFmpeg.
Yeah, we could start counting and we wouldn't be done by tomorrow. The amount of free software, or basically open source software that you can use in Windows. You're
And
correct.
the amount of open source software that you are using, although you don't know that you're using it. Because FFmpeg...
Or you
example-
forgot that you're
No,
using
but FFmpeg, for example, is a command line utility that enables you to do things with audio files. There is probably 80 to 90% of projects that are dealing with audio files are dealing with FFmpeg in the background. Because it is much easier to just use FFmpeg because it's free and because it's open source, and just include it as a library and then just use it to do the conversions and everything else.
I have an idea.
Yes?
Let's call our listeners to write down in the chat box when they look at this episode, write down the stuff that you're using on Microsoft Windows that are open source. I'd really like to know. Okay, continue.
Okay. Also, we need to mention that there are also freeware utilities that are not exactly open source, but are free. Some of them are amazing, like sysinternals, like Nearsoft, like all the rest. I'm trying to find out what the third one is. I would guess sysinternals, Nearsoft, and probably... what is it called? Metaxoft. I'll put it in the description. I know what you're
Chrome,
looking for.
Adobe Reader, Firefox.
Okay, let's not go too far. Anyways, so these are some kind of the projects. Other set of projects are those projects that we consider enterprise grade.
Okay.
So either the ones that we already mentioned, OpenShift, OpenStack, Kubernetes, Ovid,
Yeah, Docker, Podman, Ovid,
Docker, Podman,
KVM.
and so on and so on. So
Sharing.
projects that are infrastructure based and that provide infrastructure for other projects. Then there are projects that provide services like Moonin, like Acti, like Nagios, like different projects that are completely indispensable when it comes to monitoring, when it comes to working with something, because I don't know of any respectable company that is, let's say, mid-sized that isn't using Nagios, for example.
Okay.
Prometheus is pushing into this field, but usually when they need monitoring on the large scale, they're using Nagios or some Nagios derivative. So those are the projects that also can be considered infrastructure grade. They are not necessary to run your infrastructure, but they help a lot.
Okay.
and they are keeping a lot of internet alive.
You know, I have more than a few enterprise clients right now, and I had them over the course of the past 20 plus years that I've been, the corporate owner of my own company and whatnot. And before that, I was a freelance dude, just like yourself. And my approach to the differences, or let's say my approach to building out the infrastructure for a client was always that I'm going to try to find an open source thing, try to present that as the primary solution, and Microsoft One only as a spare, unless we are talking about specific things. But the net result of that so far has always been no, Microsoft based stuff.
Yes,
And
but
in the enterprise, that's normal.
yes, but the Microsoft also has that problem that they don't scale up when it comes to on-premise as well as Linux. And this is one of those things because they don't have a normal solution for monitoring. They don't have
People will hate you for that comment. They're going to say that SCOM is an excellent monitoring utility, which I heavily disagree with as somebody who A, used it, and B,
as I said, they
and
don't
B,
have a solution for monitoring.
no, they do. They do.
Properly configured syslog is better solution for monitoring.
That's also true. You remember that open source utility that we teach people, the
Logwatch.
log analyzer.
Logwatch.
Log analyzer. No, log analyzer.
Log analyzer, yes.
Yeah, but forgetting about that, I do have an excellent solution for monitoring Windows for 99.9% of the use cases, but it costs a lot of money, so it's not open source.
Yes, but it's not open source and it's not Microsoft based. It's not Microsoft owned.
Yeah,
It's a third-party solution.
it is.
For monitoring is specific. Monitoring is specific because if you require different types of monitoring, for example, SNMP monitoring of network equipment, Cacti or Moonin are amazing. If you require monitoring Linux boxes, you can work with, I don't know, Prometheus or LXTech or something like this. But if you require log monitoring, there are only a couple of solutions, and all of them are basically the best ones are extremely expensive, but worth it.
Yeah, Sumo Logic and Splunk.
And Splunk, yes. So this is part of the problem or the solution to the open source. Now we come to another set of services like WordPress CMSs. Right now the WordPress is something like 40% of the internet. So there is no other solution that is as much out there in the at the end users, because end user doesn't care. End user wants to see something that is going to represent them on their website. They are not going to look for solution. And the reason why people are choosing WordPress is simply because it has good enough development team. It has huge number of plugins.
Amazing amount of
Amazing
security
amount
holes.
of teams, enormous amount of security problems and CVEs and so on. But the thing is that the WordPress is simple to put up, it's easy to maintain, and if you are not trying to overstretch yourself, you can actually more or less do it by yourself. If you're not pushing to have some exotic plugins that nobody is going to develop or keep up to date or maintain, you can get a WordPress site for peanuts, and then you can actually have your presence on the internet thanks to just one project.
But SharePoint is so cool.
Yes, it is, but then we come back to the thing about having your IIS directly on the internet on the Windows server and paying for the licenses for everything.
Nope, that doesn't exist anymore. It's cloud only. But I was just trolling, and I'm not being serious because people misuse SharePoint in that way, and it shouldn't be used like that.
I don't really know because the people
I'm telling you.
the people I'm working with completely ignore the SharePoint existence.
That's cool.
So I don't have any experience with the SharePoint in the last 10 years or so, because the SharePoint slowly went out of grace with almost all the people that I'm working with. They decided to just change it for some other solution, be it something MediaWiki based or any other solution based on open source things.
And again, I completely agree with you. My clients used to use SharePoint mostly for project-based stuff, for file storage, stuff like that. So, exchanging. stuff like manuals and certificates for equipment and Excel sheets, Word documents, whatnot. For that, SharePoint is basically POC. Too complex, too complicated, too hungry for resources and whatnot. And most of them switch to either some solutions that you mentioned, or in our case, we use the solution that's much better at that, which is Nextcloud. And Alfresco as a solution is so much better than SharePoint and anything that you want.
And this is the main thing that I'm completely puzzled with, because, for example, Word is give or take one of the best word processors on the internet, or most used word processor on the internet.
Okay.
It does what it needs to do. Okay, it has its quirks. Microsoft tries to alienate its users in every new version. It is not compatible with itself across the architectures, yes and no. It is not compatible with itself even in the same version on the same computer, because sometimes it decides that it needs to change and save things on a network drive. Sometimes the network drive is not available because you're not in the office anymore, so it crashes and so on.
You need to stop there, because we are not going to have the discussion in which you say something and we don't explain it. I generally dislike having internal discussions like that and then not explaining to people, because they cannot understand what you meant realistically. I was writing a paper that just got published 2 days ago, and at certain point in time, so this laptop was used to edit the Word file, and it messed up my references without me noticing it.
And you need to explain, this is the ARM-based laptop?
Yeah, this is a Copilot Plus PC based on Snapdragon Elite.
So basically, Word version that is version of the Word that is compiled for the ARM is not.
I don't think it's the ARM
same
version still. Not exactly sure. We should check that. But
we need
whatever.
to check this. But the version that is running on this PC is not entirely the same version that is running on
basically
the Windows.
It took 6 or 8 of my references from index place 20 to 26, let's say, and then put it from 27 to 42 all by itself. I didn't do anything. And when I noticed that was in the final preparation stage of the paper, after it was already proofread and whatnot. And when you publish papers in distinguished journals, they do not allow you to edit content after it's been accepted for publishing, and already English check and everything has been done. So I had to ask for their input in terms of whether I can cut paste a couple of references in the references table. They said as long as you don't touch the format of that's not considered a change. Basically, it's not. So yes, you can, thankfully, because it would have cost me so much. Not in terms of money, it was much larger than that, and my colleagues would have been influenced as well if I had to correct that. But just for context reason, I'm saying
okay,
that. So let's go back.
Word is worth of mentioning as a word processor.
I like tech.
Okay, so Word is a good word processor because everybody's using it basically.
Yeah.
What is amazing from my perspective is how much better Google's solution in the cloud works when it comes to collaborating on the same document.
You think?
I don't think I usually do it. If I need 5 or 6 people to collaborate on the same document, Word, Microsoft 365 Cloud, whatever the name is right now, and whatever the name is for the collaboration version that we are going to be using. Is it SharePoint? Is it OneDrive?
It needs to be on SharePoint.
Yes.
Correct.
So whatever the name is, usually works so bad that I always want to switch to Google.
When I was leading the team for when we were developing the decoration qualification framework, we had 7 or 8 people were a part of that team, so we were changing those documents on a daily basis at the same time and whatnot. Yeah, horror stories are to be told there.
Yes, I know, but and this is amazing because Microsoft has been creating the specific version for the cloud. They are trying to make something that should be a collaborative tool, not only a single user tool.
You are completely wrong, but okay.
Google has a working solution for the last 10 years on the market,
Correct.
Or 15,
yeah.
And nobody is paying any attention from the Microsoft side from what I see, because nothing that Google does right is done right on the Windows side.
Yeah, but I think that you're going to at least on technological level agree. The file is not meant to be open in write mode at 2 places at the same time. That's what the databases are for.
Yet somehow Google manages
I
to
know,
do
but
it.
this was developed from the get-go like
Yes,
that.
this is the Google Wave, or the reincarnation of Google Wave.
Yeah.
And this is because this is the reason why Google Wave even existed, because it is a breakthrough technology when you come to think about it, because it basically requires that your file becomes a database in which every character is a separate entity that can be changed.
Okay.
So it needs to track the changes of every character inside every document.
Okay.
So these are also things where open source is not that good. When it comes to collaboration, there are tools, but collaboration is not that influential. The open source doesn't have so many solutions. There are a couple of reasons for this. First, it is much harder to develop something that needs to scale up if you don't have enough money. So for a project that would require to work on, I don't know, hundreds of millions of users, somebody will have to put up with the infrastructure and everything else. And this is something that open source rarely is able to do.
Okay.
The biggest open source project that have billions of dollars, yes, B with billions with a B, they are unable to afford so many developers, and at the same time afford enough infrastructure to make this thing work and to make this thing scale so that they can see that actually the project is working. So nobody's working in that direction. But then we come to development,
Okay.
where there are projects that work amazingly in extremely large scales. Things like React, things like GitLab. So the solutions where actually the whole structure exists that enables you to scale basically in infinite ways whatever you need to do.
Okay.
And the reason why this works is simply because usually the same group of people are involved. So, for example, the Git. Git is basically there because Linux kernel needed some way of storing the source.
Version
And
control
Torvalds,
and shit
and,
like
and
that. Yeah.
Torvalds,
Okay.
Torvalds created the Git because he needed some sort of version control. So just he created a tool.
Yeah, because CVS and all the other old utilities were just becoming too cumbersome
Yes,
to work
and
with.
because he knew that he's going to have tens of thousands of different collaborators.
Submits, yeah.
So, no, the submits are in millions. So he knew that his tool has to scale from the get-go. And Microsoft has gone through, 5 or 6 different versioning tools. And still yet, people usually either use the Git, or they are using some other solution that usually is not open source, but is better in some way.
Okay.
So this is what I was trying to make a point of. Usually when it comes to infrastructure, development, and things that are done in order to create huge systems and large-scale systems, open source has amazing tools and is usually better than whatever is the proprietary tool.
Okay.
When it comes to creating the systems on large scale, usually the open source doesn't have the tools that are necessary to support it.
Okay. Okay.
So you can create a huge cluster of, I don't know, Kubernetes systems or a huge cluster of servers on a VM. You can create a cluster of VMs on, I don't know, Proxmox or any other KVM solution. But then you don't have the tool to monitor them all because you need a tool and nobody made any...
Kubernetes is exactly the same.
Yes, but the thing is that you have the tools to create the infrastructure, but then when you need to do something with the infrastructure, you suddenly don't have the tools. You need to have something paid.
Why not? You have command line. What's wrong with that?
The time required.
But we like command line.
Or you have Ansible.
Or you have Ansible. Again, command line.
Ansible Tower.
No, still command line.
But what this is one of those things where open source is going to support you half the way through, and then you are going to end up with having to do having to use some sort of a pay tool. But specifically, if you want to try to monitor a large number of Windows systems.
Okay.
If you are trying to monitor Linux systems, you can use Rudder. Rudder is it's a good thing. It works. It's basically GPOs for Linux, but the thing is that it's not as good as some solutions that I have seen on Windows.
Okay.
The problem that I have with those solutions is the price.
Okay.
Uh, there is still a problem that I'm dealing with, and this is the problem of a small system mindset, that I don't want to pay for things that are, from my perspective, too expensive,
Okay.
although they're not. If you need to pay, I don't know, $5 per system per year to monitor
Oh,
it.
you had that recently.
Uh,
Something like that.
yes, but the thing is, if you want to monitor a system for 5 years per year, it's not a big amount. It's not a large amount of money.
No, that depends what your budget is, but yes.
But if you plug the system in, it's going to use this in electricity in I don't know 10 days. So it should be in part of the running cost. But somehow I have a problem inside the head with paying any amount of money for monitoring, because there should be a solution for that. But the solution does not exist.
There are more than a few solutions available. It's just to varying degrees of being ready, for example, for the enterprise market. There's a boatload of telegraph agents that you can use to monitor stuff,
Yes, I know.
both on Windows and especially on the open source and other things as well. But apart from that, yeah, mostly you are forced to buy some kind of a commercial solution. And as we previously mentioned, yes, they're very expensive.
They're expensive, but also when it
And
comes
by
to
the way, you mentioned SNMP. There are few things in life for whom I'm going to use the following word. I hate SNMP with passion.
I understand the reason why.
Yeah.
Because SNMP
Purely as a
is-
technology.
No, SNMP is one of those one size doesn't fix anybody, because it is trying to be everything all at once, and
It fails at doing basic things at times.
and at the same time, the way it is structured and the way the data is being sent is they created the infrastructure, they created the way of identifying data, and then they let the vendors decide what the data is going to be.
Initially, that was not supposed to be like that.
Yes, I know, but they let the vendors decide what is supposed to be, and then the democracy suddenly ate away the all the different things that you could do with the data. And this is one of those things where open source rears its ugly head. The ugly head is, since this is open source and anybody can suggest a change, if you get enough people to suggest a change that is wrong, you're going to get the change that is going to be wrong.
Yeah.
And this is something that requires some sort of dictatorship. This is the reason why Linux is
Yeah,
so
it needs
popular.
management, strict management.
Yes, you need, but not only the management, but it needs somebody who's going to say the buck stops here. So somebody who is going to say, okay, this change is insanely stupid. Let's not do it. Usually in that words, because Linux Torvalds is like this.
Yeah.
But this is the reason why the project is so successful. Because if you have somebody who has a vision, and I like the word vision.
Yeah, you will like it very much.
Yes, but the
you,
thing,
Mr. Corporate Animal.
yes, but the thing is that, for example, Linux has a vision without a mission. His mission was to create another operating system.
That's free.
But yes, but he has the vision for different parts of it, and he understands what the different parts should do and how they should be structured. And he has made
Biggest contribution to computer science in the history of mankind.
yes, I think he can be compared to Tesla when it comes to contributing
Okay, I
to
get it.
engineering. But the thing is that not only that, but he has made enormously small amount of mistakes when it comes to developing Linux.
Okay.
Just with listening to people. He may be somebody who has anger management problems, they say, and so on.
I wouldn't call it that way, but
Yes,
okay.
but they're
People would.
but yes, but I wouldn't call it like this. Because if you have to deal with tens of thousands of people, and he's dealing with tens of thousands of people, and everybody thinks that they are better than him because they are now contributing to the kernel, and they're going to be the young blood that is going to create new technologies, and he needs to talk to all of them and make sure that he has the vision and the things that are going to be released and included in the Linux kernel need to work. He needs to stop. Do you know what the first thing that a new programmer always does when it sees new code? Refactoring. So he needs to stop probably somebody refactoring his old code from kernel probably a couple times a day.
Can I say something that's not supposed to be controversial, but may end up being controversial?
Yes.
What you described is basically System D meets Leonard on a large scale.
Yes.
The amount of abuse that guy took for his project was immense. Although in his case, he doesn't have anger management issues. He just has people relationship and social skills issues at times. But precisely for the very same reasons that you mentioned before.
But I think that communication
Or had,
problems,
let's say.
communication problems that people have when it comes to open source community are far and large. There is a amazing number of people that are unable to talk to other people. And by talk, I don't mean talk. I mean communicate successfully.
Okay.
By communication, we should be defining and we should be understanding that the communication requires you to tell me something. I need to understand the same concepts that you're trying to tell me, and I need to be able to parse them.
Just like meetings.
Yes, and this is what the reason why usually people hate meetings, because on meetings it's extremely hard to understand what has happened and what...
To stick to the point.
And to stick to the point, yes. I had a meeting a couple of days ago. I was talking about with a person, and after 1 hour of talking, I'm still unable to summarize what was being said. The meeting was so dispersed without any tangible topic that I was just there. It was more
You
of
existed.
it was more of a friendly coffee than a meeting, but it is supposed to have some suggestions and some things that should be working points or action points, and I'm failing to come up with even a single one.
That happens a lot.
And this is one of those problems that I have with meetings and with people. But this is the thing that open source projects either solve or not.
If they don't, then they fail.
Yes.
For the most part. But that's good. I
Yes.
think that's good. That's the way it should be.
And this is the reason why I think that open source projects are something that probably is one of the best things that happened to the IT.
Agreed.
Because they keep at bay not only stupid ideas, but they enable people to, by and large, understand which idea actually makes sense and to try to dedicate their time to make that idea work.
As you mentioned, Linus, he actually usually doesn't explain why something will or will not get applied to the kernel, and I think he's right there as well. You cannot have a discussion with how many tens of thousands of people about the merits of every single feature that is being discussed. It's impossible.
And
So again, to a point, somebody needs to do yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. He is good at that.
I think that the only comparable open source project that I know that is working like this and it is successful is probably Debian.
Okay.
Because compared to Red Hat, which is a corporate entity basically now,
Okay.
Debian still
As Debian will probably become in the future.
Yes, but the Debian has been stable and pretty much on the money for the last 30 or so years. So it makes sense to they make sense. They managed to create a functioning committee driven approach that actually has results.
Okay. I was just kidding. I hope that they're never going to become a corporate entity, as everybody else, of course. Okay, which other, let's say, open source alternatives to commercial software might we discuss? Do you have any other ideas?
I'm not going to discuss any of those. I'm just going to give you the list of open source alternatives commercial software. There is a GitHub. Okay, there are multiple GitHub repositories that are listing those, and I'll just leave you to put it in the description.
Okay.
Because we are talking about hundreds and thousands of different solutions. For example, for as I said, regular applications like photo editors, like display, like music editors, like music players, like
music editors on Linux. Not the story we want to tell.
Yes, but there is an okay.
There are a couple that are very good.
There are a couple of that are very good. There is also a couple of video editors that are very good, but they all lack something, and this is usually something that is the reason why they are lacking some feature is usually because this feature is something that has happened in the last year or two. For example, today AI, because to be completely honest, I don't see the way of implementing AI in any open source project. If you need to
Okay.
implement AI in the open source projects, you need some way of doing the heavy lifting of the LLMs and actually creating results or creating responses. And this is something that you cannot do on a small server.
Okay.
So it is complicated to implement AI into an open source project. The way I have seen it done is either by them trying to create their own infrastructure, or them connecting you to existing infrastructure like OpenGPT, and
Okay.
just telling you, okay, if you want to use this solution or the other, you are going to pay us, I don't know, $2 a month for the subscription for the project. But then you need to just provide us with the API key that is you are going to pay for yourself, and then this is going to be integration to the ChatGPT. So this is going to work from the ChatGPT standpoint.
Just wanted to give you one counterpoint to something that you mentioned. I'm being a little bit picky, but just for a second. There is a spectacularly good video editor for Linux. It's called DaVinci Resolve.
Yes, yes, but
And the reason why I'm mentioning it, to our point and against our point. To our point, there is a free version of that, which works really well, and there is a commercial version, which I would argue doesn't cost all that much for the stuff that it's able to do.
I think that this is. I'm not trying to put.
No. I just wanted to give
No, no, no,
correct
no, 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 no,
information.
no.
I know you
I
didn't.
I don't want to put any advertisements into this, but I think that what Blackmagic is doing is they are providing people with extremely cheap options to something that could be considered broadcast quality a couple of years ago.
Yep. I would argue now, but yes,
Yeah,
I
but
agree.
okay, but they're usually lacking in some form and way or form. And the thing that they're usually lacking is the quality of the image. And the quality of the image is not the problem of the Blackmagic itself. It's the problem that needs to be solved, and this is the lenses for the cameras are extremely expensive. And if you want to create amazing images and amazing footage from, let's say, a studio, whatever you do, you need to buy lenses. And the lenses are going to be in tens of thousands of euros. And suddenly you are going to buy the entire infrastructure for the studio for a fraction of the money that you're going to be paid for the lenses. And
Yeah.
this is one of those things.
Yeah.
It just, there is no way to go around laws of physics. You can do as much HDR, DSP processing as you want, but there is no substitution for a huge sensor and a good lens that is able to provide you with the effects, with the quality of image and so on.
Actually, it's more to. I'd say I would argue in a sense that it's more about something else. If you invest in good camera, in a good good body, good lens and whatnot, that usually means that in the kind of like in a pre-production stage, while you're just in music, we call the tracking, the recording process. You can apply the same process here, same idea to the process of recording a video. If you have good camera and good lenses, that solves so many of your problems before you started here and doing any kind of modification on the video and whatnot. So I would argue that it's worthwhile to invest in the lenses, but there is going to be an inflection point at which, and you are completely correct, the lenses are incredibly expensive. It's just not worth the money that they are they cost. I mean, I remember when we started, we did a couple of episodes with GoPro.
Yes.
And the image quality was okay, but the broad lens of that just didn't fit the idea of what we were doing. It can fit some parts of that idea. For example, when I'm working with hardware, in one of the previous episodes when I was doing retro PC and whatnot, one of the cameras was GoPro. In that setting, it was good. But when we are in our studio, the Sony camera has a very expensive lens, and it's clearly visible.
Yes, I know.
And exactly my point. Myself, now going away for a second from the recording process, I click on the keys, I set up everything and whatnot, click record. When I do the part. So when I do the video editing, the montage and whatnot, that's incredibly helpful. Incredibly helpful to have good source material. That's what I wanted to say. And I know you're aware of that.
Yes, but the thing is that
Same with music instruments.
yes,
Same
but
thing.
the thing is that there are some part of the production or the infrastructure that you cannot go around.
Yeah.
The same is with IT.
Yes.
Because when you make a switch from, for example, video production into services, in the end you have to have a server. Something needs to be able to do
the amount of similarities that happen in music production, video production, IT systems,
Yes.
design and whatnot is incredible.
Yes, but the thing is that after everything has been said and done, you need to have a way of creating something. You need a way of doing some computing, so some transformation of the data that you created, and then you need a way of storing it.
Mm-hmm.
And this is going to remain the same because there is no other workflow that exists. You cannot create something out of nothing, so you need some sort of a creation tool. And you need some sort of a storage, and then you need some computing that is going to be the one that is connecting them all. So, for example, servers. There is only so much that you can do with cheap servers. The AI is a good example. Right now, you can buy cheap servers and do AI on them, but you're not going to be competitive on the market.
Sure. It's not only about the speed and the price of that. Efficiency is going to be crap.
Yes, but it's usually either the speed or the efficiency, but you just...
Both in this case.
Yes, but the thing is that if you want to servers for old-fashioned things, you can buy cheap used servers that are going to be more than enough. I was yesterday. I was taking a look at Gen 6 server from HP.
Ancient history, as we
Yes,
call it.
ancient history. But the thing was that I got this server with 2 terabyte disks attached, and I got 24 of them. So it's basically now it has a RAID 5 controller. That is nothing to write home about, because it is 10 years old.
What, Gen 6?
Yes.
More like 20.
Okay, but the controller itself, I think that the manufacturing time of this server is something like 2011, 2012.
It's possible.
So it's more than a decade old.
Okay.
But it works.
Yeah, sure.
For the storage, for extremely inexpensive storage, because
13 years. My bad.
okay, but for
Quite old.
extremely inexpensive storage, because I got it for something like 20 euros.
It was basically scrap that got converted into a 20 euro server.
It was a server that changed hands multiple times, and now it got to me. And by 20 euros, I mean I paid for paid the guy a drink and a hamburger.
Yeah.
So this is the 20 euros.
That's the exchange that happens
Exchange
nowadays.
rate. But
Exchange rate,
this
yeah.
this is the thing that you can get away if you are completely. The reason why I needed this server is just as a buffer storage for data that is not frequently used but is not important, because it requires some time to be recreated. This time is in days. So if I lose the server, it is going to be days before I recreate the data. But if I lose the server, I'm not going to lose anything.
I would argue that Gen 6, Gen 7, Gen 8 are perfectly reasonable for such an enormous amount of infrastructure services that's very, very long. DHCP, DNS, basic file server for ISOs.
This is basic file server.
Active Directory, stuff like that. All of them are good enough for that.
But
for
if you have
anything.
24 disks, they are even quick enough to be connected to the 10G network and work. It's a storage server that is, I wouldn't say fast, but I wouldn't call it slow.
ISO storage.
Yes.
ISO storage, perfect example. Yeah, because they are the PCI Express very old version. That's the problem.
Yes, I know. Okay, so this is the same across every project that we have. So once you start from, or once you absorb the initial costs of the infrastructure, open source is usually the way to go to make it work. And then after that, usually you need to go and switch to some commercial solution.
Okay, that's a very well-known path, yes.
And the only path that I see that is different than this is if you are specifically a Windows developer,
Or Windows Shop, okay.
or a Windows shop, but specifically when you're dealing with Windows developers, because they create their own set of problems because they require some sort of Microsoft technology.
Requirements.
Yes, the requirements for the Microsoft technology, and then you suddenly have a problem with licensing usually, and the licensing is the thing that usually can be a problem. But even Microsoft knows that. So bigger Microsoft shops usually have such discounts on the licenses that they are able to put up with hundreds of servers and clusters and so on.
Yeah, I agree. Okay,
Okay,
good discussion.
finish the discussion, please.
No, you can do it as well.
So, but this was basically my finish. Open source has become, I think, one of the driving forces in the IT. I think that what open source did for the IT is that it created the possibility of people to experiment with the things that they wouldn't experiment with, probably.
Absolutely true.
Because, I don't know, 20 years ago, if you wanted to create a DNS server, if you had only Windows, it is not supported on the Windows desktop. You need Windows Server. You had to get a pirated copy of Windows Server, and then you had to install it somewhere, and it was complicated. Once you got and switched to Linux, this is something that you can do in a couple of minutes. So, simple infrastructure, things like file service at home, things that are going to be something that is going to be your Plex server, your DNS, your DHCP, your file server, your library of music, whatever. It's probably going to be completely open source.
Yeah, agreed. I didn't want to stop you. We were on a roll, so I just let you finish. But we are done. So thank you for being with us for another episode, and we'll see each other in the next one.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.